Hey, Phil and Vinny back with the Athlete Spine. Thanks for joining us today and on a very, very interesting topic. And this all sort of stems from Aron Baynes, who was recently playing in the NBA Summer League, trying to make a bid to come back to the NBA a year after a horrific spine injury where he was essentially found down in the bathroom during the Tokyo Olympics while playing for the Australian national basketball team.
Yeah, it's kind of a freak injury, really. We know that he had a fall 3 days before this incident where he actually had too much hand sanitizer on his hands and went up for a dunk, believe it or not.
Happens to me all the time, too. Right?
Yeah, when you jump off a trampoline.
Hey.
And he slipped off the rim and fell and hit his head and hit his neck. Now, he was seemingly okay after this injury, but 3 days later, whether there was another fall, we don't really know, but he was found down in a bathroom and basically had trouble moving his legs. And he had some diagnostic tests done, and what they found was that he had what we think is an epidural hematoma.
Yeah, and what this means is, so let's break down the words real quick. Epidural means that this is the space inside the spinal canal. But at epis, it's around what we call the dural sac, or the sac that contains the spinal cord, in this case in the cervical spine. And hematoma just means some sort of blood collection. So an epidural hematoma is this blood collection that is within this confined space surrounding the dura and compressing the spinal cord.
Yeah, and the reason why this can cause such a big problem is that there's not a lot of space to begin with. And so various things can cause narrowing of that space. And typically what we find is, for us at least, what we treat as arthritis. When people over the course of years or even decades slowly get less space available for their spinal cord. But the thing that's really scary about an epidural hematoma is that this can collect in the matter of seconds or minutes or days, and the collection of blood in this contained space can narrow the space for the spinal cord, and this can cause numbness, weakness, pain, or even, if it's really severe, paraplegia or quadriplegia.
Yeah, and that's essentially what we think happened with Aron Baynes, who basically came out and said, after the injury that he was essentially paralyzed, which is a very scary sensation, especially from an injury that's not all that common. And so, ultimately, what do we do about this, right? If you have this fluid that's compressing your spinal cord in an enclosed space, one of the most common treatments for this is surgery if they're not getting any better. And surgery can be done in a lot of different ways, and we won't dive into that today. But just know that the goal of any surgical procedure that we do for an epidural hematoma is to evacuate the hematoma, find a way to decompress the spinal cord and get the blood out of there, and hopefully, also, treat whatever source of bleeding is there as well.
Right, and in this case, it seems like it was probably a traumatic event. In rare situations, this can actually happen spontaneously if someone's on blood thinners or something like that people can get the bleeding in the spinal canal like this. In his case, he had a couple of opinions, and some of the doctors said to just watch this and to observe it, and then other doctors said to operate. And so in his case, he ended up not having surgery and thankfully has made a spectacular recovery.
Yeah, he was literally playing 2 weeks ago in the NBA Summer League, trying to find a team to play for again, just a year after this injury. And he played well enough. He'd recently signed a contract back in Australia for their National Basketball League, and it's still holding out hopes for joining an NBA team. But, what an incredible story, an incredible recovery. And the fact that he can perform at such a high level after this type of presentation, it really is amazing.
Yeah, so we're really excited for him, and we're happy to have him back on the court, So anyway, great seeing you guys again. Be sure to like and subscribe and follow us on Instagram. Until next time.